everyone, and welcome to episode 245 of the Canadian Football Countdown, a proud member of the Canadian Football Podcast Network and the Alternative Football Network. Ryan and Trey here with you this evening. We're back, second week in a row. We're back at it. I think you can officially call it a streak now that we got 2 weeks in a row without something derailing the podcast. So we're back. And we're here with another edition of the off-season series we call the Countdown. And we're talking top 5 CFL running backs for 2024 today. We've made our lists. Adam, unfortunately, had something come up tonight, so he couldn't be here, but he did send his in as well, so we'll go over that. We got some other fun topics and some not so fun ones to talk about in between. And we'll take your comments and questions in the live chat because we are live thanks to presenting sponsor Game Time TV. Learn more at GameTimeTV.ca or Facebook.com/GameTimeTVMB. Trey, how you doing tonight?
I can't complain, man. Nice weather outside. We got some football to talk about. Jays haven't completely disappointed me yet this year. They're 3-4 now, I guess, but they were 500 today. And are the Jets still in the playoff contention? So, whatever.
Hey, they won. They broke the losing streak. So.
Oh, did they? I just saw the Raptors haven't won a game since March 3rd. So they're
a
playing,
full month.
Yeah, they're playing for next year. It looks like so.
Are the Raptors were good? They won the championship a couple years ago.
After because Kawhi left, it went downhill. They had a couple of years where they were decent, but now they've lost a bunch of their best players, so they're rebuilding. But basketball is one of those weird ones where you could buy a team in an offseason kind of easier. So I like the CFL, which I guess we'll talk about.
Yeah, for sure. Before we get into our regular topics here, we do want to acknowledge that the Canadian Football Countdown is brought to you from Treaty 1 territory, traditional territory of the Anishinaabe, Cree, Ojibwe, Dakota, and Dene peoples, and the homeland of the Métis Nation, as well as from Treaty 4 territory, traditional territory of the Cree, Saulteaux, Dakota, Lakota, Nakota, and Métis Nation. If you want additional content or additional opportunities to chat with us in between episodes, there's a link in the episode description to the Canadian Football Countdown Discord community. It's free to join if you have a Discord account, which is free to sign up for as well. And we chat CFL, NFL, UFL, Blue Jays, and MLB. Chat has been going on in there a little bit as well. Anything and everything in between. Come join the community and chat along with us throughout the off season and throughout the season there as well. We've got kids watching tonight, Trey, according to the comments here. So best behavior. I'll try to rein it in tonight.
You're the animal on this show, man. We all know that.
Yeah, I'll try to rein it in here a little bit for myself, but no promises. Yeah, should be a fun show tonight. We'll get to the top 5 countdown later on, but let's start off with some other topics CFL related. Chase Claypool is on the Riders negotiation list as of this week. Of course, this is NFL wide receiver, Canadian-born Chase Claypool. Started out with the Pittsburgh Steelers, correct? Ended up getting traded to Chicago, I believe, or let go and went to Chicago. Then was he with Miami last? I feel like he got.
They picked him up. They picked him up late because I thought McDaniels had some hope in him. Right,
and Notre Dame alum. Thank you, XFL Mike G in the chat as well. Chase Claypool, a rumor from an NFL-based account came out this week that he was considering, was it the BC Lions and the Saskatchewan Roughriders? I
something like that, yeah.
I think were the ones potentially being discussed, and that's supposedly making competitive offers for Claypool. Which then Farhan Lalji completely shut down and said that neither of the team have even contacted him or made an offer. And then suddenly 2 days later, the Riders now added him to the negotiation list. So I don't know, it's the negotiation list. I mean, we've seen guys go on that list before, like I think it was the Alouettes or the Lions, but Colin Kaepernick on the list.
Yeah.
Like sometimes you get these big names going on there, and the off chance they come to the NFL from the NFL to the CFL, you technically get their rights and first shot to sign them if that happens, but more often than not, it's not realistically going to be the case. What do you think, though, for Claypool? I mean, his NFL career seems like it's going downhill a little bit. You think there's a shot he comes to the green and white?
I mean, I kind of hope so, because from his track record, he sounds like he would just completely destroy that locker room. But and I think Adam would love that. I have said for a while that I think that he might translate a little bit better into the Canadian game, and he is one of those players where I don't think it was Pittsburgh's fault by any means. I think he's the problem a little bit, but he definitely has the talent. It's one of those ones where ego got in front of the talent a little bit. He acts like a top 5 receiver, and he's never been one. But I think in Canada, it's the same thing as Menzel. If Menzel actually tried, he probably could have succeeded in this league. I think. I don't think he tried. Same with Ocho Cinco. If he tried, he could have actually maybe did okay in this league. And if Colin Kaepernick wanted to come up and try, I think he would probably, yes, lead the league in passing yards easily. Even, maybe not now, but if he did whenever 3-4 years ago when he was in there. And yeah, if Chase Claypool comes up, I think he'd be competitive. I think he would help the Rough Riders if he cleaned up his ego or whatever's plaguing a guy who's under 26, and then he's been on 3 teams or whatever he is. So
yeah, and more often than not, these NFL stunt, I almost want to say stunt casting, right? Yeah. Of this guy is a big name, bring him in, he's going to light up the CFL. Doesn't happen because they come in with that attitude that they're just going to light up the CFL, that this is a lesser league they can come in and play in. And it's an entirely different game, different rule set, different field size, different movements and packages and things like that, number of guys on the field. Yeah. So it doesn't translate necessarily, but I agree there's talent there. I mean, he showed it 2020 at 2020 and 2021 with Pittsburgh, over 850 yards in both of those seasons for him there. And 9 touchdowns in that 2020 season, just looking at his stats here. But it's kind of trailed off his usage since then. And like you said, bouncing around between teams. I don't think he's going to come to the CFL. It would be fun to see what happens if he does, but I'm going to guess that it's not going to happen. And I don't think Saskatchewan needs him, right? Like if we're talking Canadian talent at wide receiver, they've got Keon Schaefer-Baker, they've got Braden Lenius, they've got Mitchell Picton. I would put the Riders up there with almost any other team in terms of Canadian wide receiver talent in the CFL. So,
see, I wonder if this came from an NFL news base, though. That's kind of weird. Like I could see a Canadian one doing this for clicks, but it's kind of funny that it came from an NFL kind of source. So I wonder maybe the Rough Riders were in the process of putting him on the negotiation list or something, and that got mixed up in translation. Where to an NFL, that's a kind of a weird concept, right? Where they're like, oh, there's some signing going on, right? So unless there's that, but no, it would be cool and for the 3 weeks of watching Adam pull his hair out when he gets 2 catches for 5 yards and maybe $200,000 of a salary cap or something hit. That I think that would be fun, but other than that, okay.
Yeah, I'll be shocked if it happens, but if it does, then sweet. Let's see what happens from there, I guess. And best of luck to him if he does decide to give it a shot. I think he'll bounce around and look for more NFL opportunities, though, right? The talent doesn't just drop off. I feel like that drastically that he wouldn't be a depth receiver option for a team.
If a team's willing to sign Deshaun Watson, you know what I mean, and other guys with problems, I'm gonna be honest though, if they're willing to sign guys like that, Toronto hasn't cut Kelly yet. There's there's a lot of things. So if there's an ego's all that the problem is, I'm sure there's teams that can sort it out. I actually maybe even thought before he left, Belichick in New England I thought maybe, Belichick wouldn't take that at the beginning, but if there's maybe one guy who would get rid of that, I thought maybe it'd be him. Yeah, but I don't know.
Oh, and let's be clear, when you're comparing some of those guys there, like Deshaun Watson
I know
and what he's done versus...
But that's my point. What they've done is probably worse,
and teams are still giving them a chance.
They're giving them shots. And what it seems to be Claypool's problem is just some level of ego or work ethic or something like that. And those are, which I don't understand. Like, unless it's just that thing, I wonder too. I don't know where he's from. Somewhere in Ontario, probably.
According to Richard in the YouTube chat, from Abbotsford, BC.
Okay, good point. But still, he probably somewhat small town. Then next thing he goes to Notre Dame, where he probably was big man on campus to some degree. He's the starting receiver on Notre Dame, and things like that go to people's heads. And now he's in the NFL. I was the high draft pick for Pittsburgh, and wasn't he the highest Canadian ever?
Something like that, yeah.
Something like that, and all that stuff, and but I would hope that you said one thing about guys who come up here thinking it would be a breeze. I'd hope that he would have some respect for it up here, but you never know.
You never know. Well, from potential bidders and the Riders, I guess, winning the bidding race potentially for Chase Claypool, to potential bidders for another thing, and that's the Edmonton Elks football team. That they're looking for private ownership for the team, and reports came out this week. Supposedly 20 different suitors or people, organizations, groups potentially signed non-disclosure agreements, and I'm assuming that means put bids in to own the Edmonton Elks. So it's us up against 19 others. What do you think, Trey? You think we got a shot?
You just broke contract. Like that's millions out of our pocket right now.
There goes that.
Oh man, there goes our Grey Cup plans and and everything, man. But I think it's good. I mean, that seems to be way more than Montreal. I know Montreal had a few when they were going through it, and even what am I blocking here? But and there's been a couple people sniffing around Quebec City and Atlantic Canada for expansion. So yeah, it's good to see 20 interested parties, and I wonder how many interested parties haven't gotten that far yet still too, or maybe even cut off. Maybe they just only accepted 20 of the top ones, So it's good to see. I think some ownership change in that franchise is well needed, and hopefully one of those 19 others will go and do an expansion team somewhere. So,
yeah, I think it's really good as well, especially, things are bleak for Edmonton right now, attendance wise. I mean, the long losing streak that the Elks had, they won a home game this year, right? I think they finally broke that streak. Yeah.
Pretty sure they did.
Yeah. They finally did, but a whole lot of people walked away. It said the experience at the stadium wasn't great, and then the losing streak, and just things were down for Edmonton. And this is a city that we're not used to seeing those things, because isn't Edmonton the city of champions, right? And they were good for a very long time. And so I think they need somebody who's to come in, be excited still about the team, and it's great to see 20 different groups be excited to still want to take that on and try to turn things around. And hopefully they have a similar effect to what Amar Doman's done as the owner out in BC, right? He took over in 2021, and now in BC, this was a place that was struggling attendance-wise for many years. And what has been the talk of the league the last couple of years is just business booming for the Lions, and the stadium being packed, and the upper bowl being opened there, and the concert series they've always got going on in game day events. The Lions have turned around a great game day experience that made people excited to go and watch them play. It helps to have them winning as much as they have been, and that goes a long way. But hopefully whoever steps in to own the Elks can kind of have a similar effect. My favorite rumor that I have seen is what if Victor Cooey is one of the 20 potential parties after he was let go by the team, and comes around and buys them for private ownership? He's probably got the money for it, honestly.
Yeah, I wonder what kind of money CFL teams go for? Because I thought I heard the Washington Football Club, and I know there's two different leagues, but they were looking at $2.5 billion or something like that. So I wonder what a CFL team is in comparison.
Yeah, that's a good question.
Because like a little bit closer, NHL expansion's $1 billion. I think the Jets were like the Thrashers were purchased for half of that, if not a little less. So yeah, I'm curious. So I mean, if you didn't blow our opportunities, Ryan, we might have had a chance at that.
Shoot.
You have to remember, Adam's got that farmer money, man. He always, you got to sell one of those tractors, and that might be enough.
So I Googled right now what Edmonton Elk's worth. And the first thing that came up was a Reddit thread from the Edmonton subreddit, not the CFL subreddit, the Edmonton subreddit. And the two top voted comments are 8 Scrabble points and less than a moose, more than a deer. So that didn't really provide much helpful info there.
That is the most CFL thing in the league where we can't find out salaries and stuff like that. So why would we know how much a franchise costs?
Yeah, if anybody knows,
it'll also be tough because they're coming from community owned too, right? So I wonder, that's kind of tough to. There might be a little bit of red tape and different things to go through, right? It's not as simple as just one person to another. I wonder.
Right.
So.
Yeah, so we'll see. We'll see who takes over the Edmonton Elks Football Club, or the Edmonton Football Club, also known as the Edmonton Elks.
We've agreed before, right, that the name's got nothing to do with it, right?
What do you mean?
But I keep seeing people still complain about the name.
No, those people need to grow up.
Yeah, that's what, and I wonder because I see that about Washington and Cleveland too, and I just wonder how much of it's actually like, again, it's tough to tell on Twitter and stuff like that how much is real and how much of it, like, are the 1,000 people, or not 1,000, but are the 100 people complaining, are those the only 100, or is there hundreds more that aren't complaining? You never can really tell, right? So, and I don't know, like, I think it's just, I agree with you, grow up and get over it, but I just see so many people say they've stopped buying the tickets since the name change, and I just wonder if that's actually real.
I just don't, yeah. I believe that there are people that have done this, that have turned in their fan card because the name changed. I don't believe these people have a good reason for doing so, though. And I question the fan status to begin with. If the name of the team changing away from something that is considered offensive to some parties really makes you not want to go watch the product on the field, then yeah, I question how much of a fan you are to begin with.
No, I wholeheartedly agree. But like I said, from a business standpoint, if we drop ethics and morality for a second, from a business standpoint, I mean,
because there's none of that in business, right?
Yeah, that's what I mean. Like, because I see things once in a while saying that people are suing Washington to get the old name back. And I just wonder how much, again, is that true? And apparently there was enough of the community that enjoyed the name or something. And so I want, like, you're never going to please everybody. So that's why I just wonder how much of a financial hit are people actually going to take from trying to be politically correct. Disney's taken a hit from being politically correct, and it's probably the right thing. Like, right. So anyway, but we could talk about that.
Yeah, I agree with you that it's an interesting thing to consider is how much does that impact sales out of it. I hope not much, but I agree with you that it probably does have some impact, as stupid as that is. Moving on to our next topic here, a bit of a sad one. Riders legend passing away today, Jim Hobson. Trey and I admittedly both don't know much about him ourselves, but our resident Riders expert, Adam, did fill us in kind of on the gravity, I guess, of this loss. He was the Riders president from 2005 to 2014, led them to 2 Grey Cups, was the main reason the Riders got a new stadium, all around nicest guy in Saskatchewan. For the last 20 years running, according to Adam, and took the Riders from being a lovable joke to the marquee franchise during that time period, which they were. I mean, they were one of the cream of the crop in CFL.
Yeah.
born and raised in Regina, and Adam said he put him on the Mount Rushmore of riders. Huge loss, and our condolences to the Hobson family and Rider Nation and really everyone. It feels like we've lost a lot of CFL legends this year, hasn't it? Like the Bombers, I feel like recently there were a couple that passed away.
Yeah. I mean, yeah, getting to that, we're getting, I mean, I wonder if it's that, or I wonder if maybe we're just at an all time where we know, because how many times there past players that maybe we don't even know about, kind of thing anymore. Or we don't know what's going on with them as much, but now we're in an all time era of Twitter and Facebook and things like that. But yeah, it does seem like that, and it's sad, but it's life. Well, it's the circle of life, right?
Yeah.
But yeah, condolences to the Rough Riders. We make jokes about the Rough Riders as Bomber fans, but in the long grand scheme of things, we're as close as cousins as we can get, right, with the Rough Riders. And yeah, so their loss is our loss.
Yeah, for sure. Well said on that one.
Yes, Richard.
And Richard says, so you're saying we're getting old. That's part of it too. Like I'm a diehard CFL fan, but I know no CFL history, like pre-2000s or anything like that. Like I started tuning into CFL, I want to say like mid the 2000s, like 2005, 2006 was when I really started tuning into it. I haven't watched old stuff. So oftentimes when we're talking about these legends or when legends pass away, and I mean, when Hobson was more involved, obviously, in more recent years at the management level there, but talking about some of these other guys, when we're talking about the legends of the game passing away or just historical legends, I don't know anything about them besides what I see on social media. So, now we're going to, as time goes along and as we do get older, we're going to more and more so start seeing news like this and feeling the impact because these are guys we watched, right?
Yep. And yes, Richard, we're getting old. I'm finding gray hairs in my beard every day.
Yeah. The hairs keep getting grayer for sure.
Oh man. And ginger hair goes like white. Like there's no salt and pepper in ginger hair, man. It just goes white. So yeah.
Well, a man who, speaking of getting older, this is a great segue into the next topic. I'm on a roll with these tonight. I feel like the ageless wonder himself, potentially. No, I think he is the ageless wonder. He posted this on X on April Fool's Day, but did include the hashtag No April Fools. The great Milt Stiegel tweeting out, "My plan is to report to someone's training camp this May and go through one day of practice." I love it.
I mean, I'm sure the Bombers would allow him to come in, and do one day of practice. But like, I'm sure that concept is easy. But oh man, he's what 54? We said, yeah.
50. Milt's 54, like that.
And he started his NFL career like the year around you were born.
Yeah, like I thought when we were talking about it, like I mean, the more I do the math, think about how long his career was, and when he started his career and stuff, like it makes sense. But I don't know. When I think of Milt, I still think of him as I don't know, early 40s for Stiegel.
I mean, when did he retired pretty late too into his career? I thought too, right? Like, but that just shows, I guess, how top of his game he still was near the end, where we didn't even realize that he was late 30s when he retired, something like that, because he must have retired about 15 16 years ago now.
He retired 2009, so yeah, 15 years ago.
15 years ago.
Wow.
So he retired at 39. So, and he looks like he's in shape. I'm sure he could still run some routes. I'm sure he could catch some balls. I don't think a 54-year-old can take a hit. So I would stick to padless practice.
Well, they do that for the most part.
Yeah, so I would stick to that. I would not want to actually see him on the field. At 54, I even think like a good game of touch football might be a little Little tough, but he looks good for 54. I'll give him that.
He might be the most fit 54-year-old I've seen. Milt Steele.
Yeah.
I think he could still do it. Taking the hit. I think that's the problem. But I don't know. Is he fast enough still that he can just avoid taking that hit?
I mean, he avoided them in his prime a lot. I felt like I think that's what helped him with his long career. Is he was just always. I was always amazed by him as a kid because that we're talking about. When we started watching football, I mean, Stiegel was our childhoods, right?
Yeah,
so it was the that and the big 95-yard play against Edmonton, right, or whatever that is, and it was the crazy plays and stuff like that. But man, to play still, like I said, opening day of training camp, I could see him going down to IG Field, and they're not going to not let him in. Right? Like his name is up on the Ring of Honor. I think he's going to get let in, and I think they'll let him catch a ball or two.
I just think like I want him to go, spend training camp with the team and have TSN follow him around with cameras, do a documentary or something.
Oh, Hard Knocks, but with Stiegel.
Yeah, like as the league's official broadcast partner, like TSN does the bare minimum. Right, and because there's no competition, but they have CFL Wired where they have like the mics on and they'll replay that on TSN2 like 25 times a week. But like, give me more random content like this from TSN. Like, I want to see Stiegel mic'd up at training camp. Send Dunnigan out to somewhere else for training camp.
I mean, it might be tough, but almost do like what was it Eli Manning? They put that mask on him or something and send him to a college, and he went as he did a walk on and or whatever, and he was the best player out there, but they cut him because he was like, oh, you're past your age eligibility because he was like already a retired NFLer. So I was like, so I guess we could do that, but yeah, I don't know. I think I wholeheartedly think Stiegel believes he can do it. I think he thinks. I wholeheartedly know that for a fact that he would put his whole life savings on that. But yeah, and I agree with or it would be better like a hidden camera on him, like where nobody knows it, and he's just sitting there. And I just feel like he would trash. I bet his trash talk is still prime.
Oh yeah. I mean, you see him and Davis Sanchez on the panel.
Yeah, I would pay to see that. Sanchez is as a DB. Put them out there, one-on-one practice.
That would be sweet. Well, I feel like they did that once, or there was a big thing where Stiegel caught a pass at IG Field, like pregame.
They did that for the home opener at IG. I thought Dunnigan threw him one.
Oh,
For the very first game at IG Field or Princess Auto.
We got a lot of live chat comments coming here over on the YouTube feed here. We got some of our regular folks in here, our reigning fantasy champ FM fans in here popped in. Our friends from the Alternative Football Network are here. Good to see y'all. Do you guys see here's a question from Alternative Football Network. Do you guys see former XFL receiver Jeff Bidet doing well with the Argos? I did see he signed there. I don't know much about him myself, but Toronto's a team where I feel like they use a lot of different receivers, right? Like last year, they have some stars. They've got like your DeVaris Daniels and your DeMonte Coxey, and these guys are studs. But Chad Kelly spread the ball around a ton last year amongst his receivers to the point where it was like a lot of solid guys, but I don't know if I'd rank any of them, spoiler alert, in my top 10 wide receivers from last season necessarily. I think there's room for anybody to come in and be competitive in that wide receiver core. The only question is who's going to be throwing them the ball, because things are still up in the air of based on the allegations and the ongoing investigation with Chad Kelly. So I think there's potential at least to get a depth spot for someone here.
Yeah, I'm looking at the quick stats. I played 7 games last year, 30 catches for 405 yards and 5 touchdowns. I mean, that's not bad. I mean, the football was still pretty good down there. He's played in the XFL, USFL, some time in the NFL. So I mean, he's one of those guys where he's still relative. We're talking about Stiegel went to 39. This guy's 29, so I guess if he in Stiegel years, he could still have another 10 years left if he plays well. So I could see it, and I agree. I can't remember the exact stat, but I thought there was a few games too where like every receiver got a touch, or you know what I mean. There was like 10 guys almost got a catch or a touch on that Argos offense, which is unreal. And we talk about potential, quarterback change. A new quarterback might toss the ball around even more than Chad. Yeah. You know what I mean? They have to find their guy, and you never know who that guy might be. If this guy, is kind of sitting second reps, he might get a lot of time with was it Dukes? Is that the backup? Yeah. He might get some time with Dukes, and then if Dukes gets the shot, this guy might have his opportunity, right? So, yeah, you never know. I honestly wish I had more hours in the day because I want to watch UFL and I want to watch it all, but Saturdays and Sundays are tough enough as it is. You know what I mean?
Like, I get you. Yeah.
You already got 10 sports going on. We both, we got kids, we got wives, we got, we just want to sleep. You just want to watch something, and then, there's more football on. Well, okay, cool.
Yeah. I mean, I used to be huge into hockey. Now I don't watch a single hockey game till the Lightning are in the playoffs, pretty much. I'll watch that, and I'll watch the Jets for the 4 games they play in the playoffs. And that's it. Because there's just not enough time to consume all the sports going on these days. So, I'm with you on that one, that I'd love to watch more if there was more time. Interesting note from the Argos website on Jeff Bidet. He finished 5th in long jump at state championships. So he's got horizontal. Is that it's not vertical if it's long jump. I guess he's got horizontal.
Yeah, but you still got to jump high to get far, I guess, to some degree.
Yeah.
So I haven't done long jump or high jump or any of that since grade 7 field day, man. So I don't know.
I don't even know if I could say I did, to be honest. I can say I attempted, but I don't know if my jumps would be considered long or high. I'm tall, but I ain't got the vertical. I'll say that.
That triple jump thing, that hop, skip, and jump or whatever, that was mine. That was my go-to.
It was more of a shot put or discus.
Shot put discus was good. Yeah,
which also didn't work out well as somebody with no upper body strength. But track and field was not my strong point. I'll say that much.
That's why we have a podcast, right?
Exactly.
Okay.
One thing that came to mind with this, though, I mean, former XFL players coming over to the CFL, we're seeing some of that too. The big talk when the XFL USFL spun up a couple of years ago was, this is a threat to the CFL. We're going to lose so much talent. I feel like that didn't happen, right? Like when did these leagues, I know they're merged together, but when did they first kick off? Was it 2020, 2021?
Well, yeah, the XFL tried once and then they both shut down. Well, the XFL did, and then that was at AF, and they both shut down because of COVID. Right. So it would have been 2019, 2020, and then the USFL and XFL came kind of again late a year or two later.
Yeah, I think it was 2022.
Yeah,
23.
So, I mean, I don't know. I'm in this holding pattern. The Canadian patriot in me wants to say like F everything that's not CFL a little bit, you know what I mean? And no, the CFL is 110 years, and the XFL and USFL or whatever they call themselves can succeed, but it's not going to hurt us. But then I'm like, well, you know what? Especially since we've been a part of now the AFN, their stuff pops up on my Facebook page all the time, and I go, maybe this is a little bit more than I thought. It's maybe a little bit, but I don't know. With it going from 16 teams to 8, that definitely helped the CFL.
I feel like just the more leagues here is more beneficial than it was hurting, right? Like, I think there was initial concern, especially when we started seeing guys last offseason, like Darnell Sankey go off to the XFL, biggest like tackle leader in the CFL going off there.
Right, NBT just came off a Grey Cup win, but then guess what? They come back.
Guys come back, and I think there's a trade of talent. Some CFL guys will look at opportunities here, and some guys from The spring leagues in the States are going to look for opportunities in the CFL. So I think it's mutually beneficial. Like to me, I the more football leagues, the better. And it's going to make for better talent across the board to transition from league to league.
See, normally I agree. In other sports like baseball, there's like 100 leagues, right? We got the Gold Eye League, which is like the AA, American Independent League, and then you got AA, AAA, Single A, all that stuff, major leagues, and all that. And I think some sports, yes, it's good. I just get worried about football because it's not as because it's so physically taxing. You know what I mean? I get a little bit more hesitant on it because, like, again, baseball, it's you could go and play 5 years of single A before ever sniffing the big leagues, and then you could go. But because of football, your career kind of could end at 26, 27, depending on the position, depending on injuries. Some of these guys don't have time to they have to open up the horizons and want to play in some of these, I'll call it, smaller leagues than the NFL, maybe, because, in which we see guys come up here and realize that there are guys, but I don't know. I just get I don't know. I'm a little concerned about it, and then just in general, football and the rules, Richard asked us a question about something we talked about last week a little bit, the rule changes. We're seeing tackling changing. We're seeing different, they're trying to implement kickoff rules in the NFL to add more jobs or to not lose jobs, because I was thinking about that. I was wondering too about that. Do you think if return games get a little bit more valuable in the NFL, do guys up to, some guys that sneak their way up in Canada, those return guys, do they maybe get jobs in America? Because of kickoff, because who really needs to do a kick return for 95% of the games?
Right.
You could put your center out there and he just has to go like this and let it bounce into the end zone.
Well, yeah, the CFL has a lot of dedicated kick return guys, and I know. Well, they some of them play regularly, but you look at Janarian Grant, he's depth receiver. Mario Alford's not. Terry Williams, Javon Leake, these are guys not actively involved in their team's offenses, but are the focal point that in the NFL you don't really need that because it's not that commonly, at least up until now, is not that commonly been used. So you can just have, similarly you can have anybody out there returning kicks. Not anyone, but
that's what makes me mad when you're playing Madden. If you don't realize, they'll put the best suited player, so your first string receiver might be your kick returner, and you don't realize that, and he gets rocked first play.
Yeah,
there's actual kick returns on Madden. So it's
when are we bringing back the CFC?
Man, we got busy with that. It's okay, Richard. I think we talked about the kickoff last week a little bit.
We did.
Yeah, we said that it was okay. We don't want us changing it, but I think anything to bring it back to the American NFL is good.
Yeah, and anything that improves player safety, we were for that. Right, there. Right. XFL Mike G in the Facebook chat sums up what I was trying to say in a much more elegant, poetic way of a rising tide lifts all ships. More players are getting more opportunities in more leagues, and that's great to see. Especially, like you said, football careers are so short.
Yeah,
it's great to see more of these guys, that put all of the effort in to train to try to get there, to find a spot to get to play professional football. So,
if XFL Mike or alternative football, I was going to Google this. If they could what's the rough salary for a player this year? I'd be curious about that too, because again, I think these leagues are good. But even the CFL, where the top player, one guy's making a couple guys are making $500,000, is that worth it to just completely destroy your mental health and your body and stuff?
Well, yeah, that's a whole argument we can get into.
You can make the argument is $50 million a year for Mahomes even worth it in the long run, right? I thought I saw something years ago that Sidney Crosby should have shut down hockey years ago, but he just had too much money tied up into it. So it's and I'm just curious if the UFL, I keep calling it the XFL, UFL, we're gonna get booted from this network, man, if I don't smarten up here. But the UFL, I'm just curious, 55 a day, just shy of $70K US American. So they make roughly what minimal Canadian Football League player makes.
Yeah, I think that's
okay.
Well, I don't know the dollar conversion because I think minimal is around 65.
I thought ours is in US dollars.
Is it?
Yeah, I thought so for conversion to the American players. I thought it's all in American.
Oh, interesting.
So I could be wrong, but I thought it was 5.3 US.
I've never, every time contract details come out, I've never once thought about whether a CFL contract details reported are in Canadian or US dollars.
Yeah,
This thought has never
I
crossed my
thought it
mind
was
until this
I
moment.
thought it was US, and I thought because it was just easier conversion for the American players and because of their dollar being stronger generally.
Interesting.
But I could be way off. Like that could have been something I dreamt about. But
came to you in a dream or
yeah,
something.
but 70K, okay. I'll be a backup kicker for 70K. So
Oh yeah, heck yeah.
anyway, top 10 or top 5s, let's go.
Yeah, let's get into it. I saw some folks throwing theirs out in the chat, which is fun to see there. So let's get into talking about our top 5 running backs. Again, criteria similar to what we did with the quarterbacks last week. Go back and check out episode 244 if you want to see who our top 5 quarterbacks are. The criteria here is top 5 running backs that we are our picks for top 5 for the 2024 season. So that might be different than what we think are, as of today, the top 5 running backs, but maybe they're in a better situation for the upcoming season based off of offseason movement, that we think they're going to be a breakout player. That might put them into the top 5, but it's who we think is going to be our top 5 for 2024 that then we can look back on halfway through the season, end of the season, and realize how terribly wrong we were.
Real quick, I was terribly wrong. FM fan, he Googled it. CFL is in Canadian dollars. So that's one thing.
There we go.
Yeah. Because I Googled it too, and it read the exact same thing FM fan had. So the old copy and paste button works good on his keyboard. Thanks, buddy. I don't know where I saw that, but maybe I saw something that was showing what the conversion was or something, or I don't know, but whatever. Or maybe I got hockey mixed up because it's all in American dollars.
Oh yeah, that sounds more realistic because it's more of an American league,
and the
right?
Jays and the Raptors and stuff are all in US dollars. Maybe that's what I was getting mixed up.
Well, quickly before we do our top 5 for this year, you want to have some fun and look back at our top 5 lists from last offseason here for running backs in the CFL. For myself, I had, or all 4 of us had Kadeem Carey as number 1 on our list. Of course, he came off being the league's leading rusher the year before. That turned out to be a bit of a rough one. Big injury for Carey this year and didn't do a whole ton when he came back after that. I had Jamal Morrow at number 2. He finished 6th in the league in rushing yards, but looks to be
He's still unsigned now? Right, we talked about
still unsigned. Yeah, he did not pass the physical with Calgary. Brady Oliveira at number 3, Kevin Brown at number 4, James Butler at number 5 for myself. You had AJ Ouellette at number 2. That turned out to be a pretty darn good pick there from yourself, I gotta say.
I'm the fountain that keeps giving, man.
James Butler at number 3, Oliveira at 4, Jamal Morrow at 5 for you last year. Adam, this was a fun one. I'm really sad Adam couldn't be here tonight so that I couldn't just grill him on what the heck he was thinking this day. When he put as his top 5 running backs, Kadeem Carey, solid pick. Kevin Brown, I like that. Dedrick Mills, okay, showed some potential, but was also in a 1A, 1B with his number 1 running back. Frankie Hickson, the backup running back for the Saskatchewan Roughriders, who hardly hit the field. And Greg McCrae, the depth slot back slash third string running back for the Bombers. No Brady Oliveira, though, on the list.
That's his only way that he got Brady Oliveira off his list, because we all know he doesn't really like him.
Yeah, so we'll find out where he goes on the list this year. Last year, Mike sent in picks. This year, he didn't. But he had Kadeem Carey, William Stanback, Brady Oliveira, Dedrick Mills, and AJ Ouellette. So you and Mike were the only ones to get Ouellette on the list last year, which turned out to be a great choice. So let's start off with our top 5 for this year. I'll fill in the chart as we go along, and then we'll review it afterwards. Do you want to start with your number 5, Trey?
Oh, God, this is the one I hated the most to do because running backs are so all over the place. But I went to the Montreal Alouettes. Oh, I'm not even going to go on their website. It's all in French. Joshua Antwi. I went with him. I felt like with how they, he didn't have the stats. I had his stats up earlier. His stats weren't exactly maybe what I would have thought from him, but I thought I saw a lot of potential from him last year. And now this team's got one more year under their belt and everything, right? Another year together. Oh, where is this?
I have his stats here if you want.
229
rushing yards for him and 1 touchdown last year.
Yeah, he wasn't overly used, but I think that they all kind of moved around. Now Stanback's gone too. I think that kind of opens up some things. He's the Canadian too, right? So that'll be interesting. And like I said, now Fajardo's going to need another running back in there with William Stanback. BC? No.
Yeah,
BC. Man, I gotta start studying up a little bit more.
Yeah, fantasy draft's coming up, man, in a month and a half. Start studying. We'll see how that goes. I like this pick though. I don't have Antwi, spoiler alert, in my top 5, but I like the pick because with Stanback being gone, his totals weren't there last year because he was mostly in that backup role. It was either Stanback or Fletcher got the starting job. But now Stanback's out of the equation. Yes, Walter Fletcher is still there. But they also, as you mentioned before the show, signed Sean Thomas Erlington, another Canadian. So does that drive them more towards starting a Canadian running back and Antwi getting the bulk of the starts here and potentially more usage in that sense? I think it's still going to be running back by committee, but I think he's going to have a solid year this year. For me, for number 5 on the list, and it pained me to put this guy down to number 5 because I could see myself putting him higher as well. I'm a huge fan of his. It's James Butler of the Hamilton Tiger Cats for me. He did finish 3rd in the league in rushing yards last year with 1,116. He had 7 touchdowns on the ground. He had a bunch of usage through the air as well. I think James Butler is one of the best running backs in the league. And he is the focal point of that Hamilton offense, especially with Bo Levi Mitchell at quarterback, and I think he's going to struggle. I think that they're going to have to lean on James Butler, and he's the only running back, really, that they ever dress, so there's not competition there for him. Yeah. So I could potentially put him higher on the list, but I am really excited about the development we're going to see from some of these other running backs that I'm going to slot him in at number 5 for right now for me, for James Butler. I think he's going to have another solid season again this year. And I think that having Scott Milanovic as his offensive coordinator for a full season and not Tommy Condell's garbage offense, I think is going to help him this year as well. So James Butler comes in at number 5 for me. Adam had Devontae Williams of the Ottawa Redblacks as his number 5. Let me go and find his explanation. He said a full season will prove this guy amazing. So he kind of took over the starting role affirmatively and ran with it late last year. That's who we've got at 5s. Let's go to number 4. I'll go up first at number 4 here, and I'll piggyback off of Adam. I've got Devontae Williams at number 4 for me of the Ottawa Redblacks. Huge fan of what he did late in the season last year. He had 1,000 yards on the year while only playing 15 games. I thought the bulk of that came late in the season for him, and I'm expecting Ottawa's offense to be better this year. Their offensive line was rough last year. They made some good improvements there this offseason. I think they brought in some helpful receivers like Dominic Rhymes. I mean, Drew Brown, if he lives up to the hype, the passing game is going to be good. And I think that's just going to make the offense better there for Devontae Williams. Although now that I think about it, I think Tommy Condell's the offensive coordinator there. So maybe I should move Williams off my list based on that alone. But I think Ottawa's offense is just going to be better, and Williams is going to be better as a result of that. That's my pick for number 4. Who you got?
I got the guy you talked about just prior, and James Butler. I agree. I was kind of surprised when I saw how many yards he had. I felt like he was every week we were saying Hamilton needs to run the ball more, and he still finished 3rd in the league. Right now, granted, was it it was 400 yards down of the league leader, but he had one less game started. So, yeah, I just always felt like Hamilton was one of those teams that needed to run the ball more. And when you got a guy who's third in the league in rushing yards, and I still think he should run the ball more. Maybe that average could get a little higher. We could blame that about some offensive scheme or some offensive line. Didn't have the big 20-yard plus breaks like other guys did, but no, I think I think if Bo wants to make it to, I don't know, Canada Day, you need to give it the ball to James Butler.
Yes, I agree. James Butler, last year, interestingly, only a 4.7 yard average for him. He actually got the ball a lot. Second most carries in the league behind Brady Oliveira last year. But
with the quarterback carousel, I guess they kind of needed to lean on him a bit, maybe too. So,
but it was tough sledding for him a lot of times because there just wasn't the passing game to back it up. There for James Butler. We haven't given Adams number 4 yet, I don't think. And that's Kevin Brown of the Edmonton Elks. Seriously, get an offensive line and let this man eat, says the great Adam Stewart there at number 4. We'll give his number 3 next just to finish off the train of chatter on James Butler because he is Butler up at number 3. Saying a lot of what we've said already. He's going to have to run like never before if the Ticats have much chance, was Adam's take on it. So I think we're all in agreement that James Butler is one of the top 5 running backs in the CFL and is the focal point of that Ticats offense there. Who do you have at number 3?
I have someone you also talked about, Devontae Williams at number 3. I agree. I liked what I saw near the end of the year. He ended with 5th in, rushing yards, just got over the 1,000 mark. I think, again, with the new system, again, we don't know who the quarterback's 100% going to be. Like, sure, it's likely could be Brown, but we might see a carousel. We might see Mazzoli, who's hit and miss. We might see Brown, who struggles now being a full-time guy, and you're going to need to lean on your running back at times. And, so Devontae Williams.
All right, to round up the number 3 list here, I've got Kevin Brown of the Edmonton Elks. I am a massive Kevin Brown fan. I think I took him in round 1 or round 2 of our fantasy draft last offseason. And I think I traded him away to you in a trade for James Butler at some point during the year because it was disappointing. That whole Elks offense was such a letdown, especially that first half of the season before Trey Ford came in.
Yeah.
And yet Kevin Brown finished second in the league with 1,141 yards on the season, had a 6.1 yard average, which was top, I think, among basically all the starting running backs in the CFL. He was explosive when they gave him the ball. And I think the big thing that's going to take him to the next level is actually having McLeod Bethel Thompson as the quarterback instead of Trey Ford, because the passing game is going to be better, which is going to open up more opportunities for the rushing game. And he doesn't really have to worry about Trey Ford taking away as many of his carries. He's still going to take away the goal line ones. Like, how many 1 yard plunges, 2 yard plunges is Trey Ford going to have? Probably quite a few. I imagine that I wish would maybe go to Kevin Brown, but more of those opportunities. Bethel Thompson doesn't run. So if they want to get any running game going, it's going to go through Kevin Brown this year, and I think he's going to have a monster year as a result. So that's who I've got at number 3 on the list. We'll go back to me for number 2 here next. I've got AJ Ouellette of the Riders at number 2. Huge year for him. Props to you for putting him number 2, I think, on your list coming into the year. 1,000-yard season for Ouellette, eight touchdowns on the year for him. Not bad, given that he also had to contend with Andrew Harris in that backfield. Daniel Adeboboye got some carries. Deontay McMahon got some carries in there. And Ouellette sat also for a couple of games at the end of the year because they were locked into first place already. So this guy is going to be everything Riderville could possibly want from him as a marketable player. And I expect them to also use him quite a bit, given the offensive coordinator is a former run game coordinator over there in Saskatchewan. So bigger things to come for AJ Ouellette this year, I think. Who do you have number 2?
I have Brady Oliveira at number 2. I think not because of him. I think the offensive line is going to struggle in Winnipeg, so I think that will hinder him, obviously a little bit. But I without ruining it, I think I kind of have a 1A, 1B. It could very well be for my top 2, but I did put Brady Oliveira second because I just don't have any. I've been saying it for a while that the Bombers O-line is going to let me down eventually, and it gets worse and worse and worse every year, and the early to late 2000s are kind of PTSD's kicking in every time I see Collaros take a snap, and he's no spring chicken either, and I don't want him taking any hits. So Brady Oliveira will definitely get his chance. I think he'll still run for 1,000+ yards barring injury. I think he'll still likely be MOC, conversations again, barring injury, and could he, all that stuff. But I just think the next guy will be a little bit better.
Yeah, I think I have a feeling I know who's going to be number 1 on your list, but we'll get to that in a second. With you, I never know. Let's be real. So Adam agrees with me with AJ Ouellette at number 2, saying he thinks he's going to be the linchpin this season. The Riders need him to carry them to greatness, which is a lot of what I had said earlier there as well on AJ Ouellette. Let's go back to you right away for your number 1 here then. Go ahead and spoil it now.
Oh, we got to give it to Thor. Got to give it to Thor, man. AJ Ouellette. I think that, Adam is not completely sold on his team, but I am. I'm a lot more sold on the Rough Riders this year than a Rough Rider fan is, and that should say something, I guess. Because I think that they seem to have a little bit of rejuvenation now with their new coaching. They got AJ Ouellette. They seem to did they not pick up someone else? Who else did they pick up?
Who is this? Sorry?
The Rough Riders.
Well, they've got Frankie Hickson back at
But did they not pick up someone big overall, or am I making that up? Okay, maybe not. Maybe I'm thinking of something else. But I definitely think And again, you never know with Harris's health, but if Harris doesn't stay healthy again, you're going to need a guy like AJ Ouellette to pick it up with Mason Fine and a backfield there. So I think AJ Ouellette, and I think Labor Day Banjo Bowl. I don't want to see a pass football. You know what I mean? Like, I think both teams could legit do old school college football, hand the ball off every play, and we'll still have a 35-33 game.
It'll be like that NFL game. Was it Mac Jones or was it Daniel Jones that threw like 3 passes and they won or something like that?
Yeah, and honestly, with Oliveira and Ouellette, it'll still be it won't be boring. You know what I mean? It won't be boring. That's all. Actually, they play 3 times this year, so that first meeting too. I'm a little less that Harris and Collaros have to throw the ball in those games. I actually think the game will be maybe more exciting to some degree with those 2.
Yeah, Adam, to round out his list, had Brady Oliveira at number 1.
That must have killed him.
Yeah, well, we'll get to that. He said we know he can go beast mode under a great offensive line. He can go full crazy in playoffs and Grey Cup. Now, can he keep Collaros standing up? So I think it's some of the similar offensive line concerns. But yeah, you did put him over Ouellette, which I thought went against everything I know his character to be. So I did question him on it, and I really like the answer he gave. He agreed 1A, 1B, and that makes sense. But one isn't learning a new system. One is AJ might be better in the end, but it might take some time to get settled in Saskatchewan for Ouellette.
Is it a new system, though, if it's the same coaching staff he just had?
Yeah, but I mean, the coach is a defense. Well, I guess the head coach was the defensive coordinator.
That's fair. Yeah, that's fair.
So Adam's got Brady Oliveira at number 1. I do as well. I think Brady's something special. He led the league in rushing yards by almost 400 yards more than the next best in the league last year, and had, what was it, one of the best Canadian running back seasons of all time. I think he was just a couple of 100 yards short of the record. And that also includes early in the season, we were talking about him having a slow start to the year, I feel like, or there were a lot of games early in the season where for 3 quarters there was nothing, and then suddenly he'd run for 100 in the fourth. So
see, that's kind of my concern too, because one, we just talked about AJ Ouellette had 3 less games, and he probably got shut down a lot in the fourth quarter because of scores. I don't know if we're going to have that in Saskatchewan. I don't think Saskatchewan's going to be up 20. I don't think Saskatchewan's going to be 16-2 or whatever Toronto was. But I'm also the other way. Winnipeg's that team that they keep the game close, and then next thing you know, they do nothing but run the ball in the fourth quarter. And I don't know if the offensive line can do that this year. So that's kind of where I'm at. But I could see both these guys being West, very good for West, top running back in the West, and even MOP in the West. Like, I could see both these guys being up there at the end of the year. And again, we could see the Rough Riders 4 times this year. And in November, these guys are going to get nothing but the ball, right? So
yeah, and I agree with you guys that it's a 1A, 1B situation. It's hard comparing these guys because they're going to have monster years. Yeah. I think the sky's the limit for Brady Oliveira. And I think, I will say if he can stay healthy throughout his career, I think Oliveira will be the Winnipeg-born running back we talk about years down the road, more so than Andrew Harris. I think he's got the potential to
I see that. I don't think for talent. I think because Oliveira started here. You know what I mean? I think that a little bit more, because if Harris started here and he had those good years in BC here and built everything here, that's tough.
Not to mention personality, right? I mean, the dude saves dogs between football games. Oliveira does. So
maybe he'll stay up too late on game night and that'll mess some of his stats up.
Maybe, but like top 10 human in the CFL, right? Brady Oliveira as well. So he's number 1 for me. I think sky's the limit. I think he could hit an even bigger year yet than what he hit last season. And I hope he does, because that would be fun to see. All right, that makes our top 5 list here. And let me pull it up on the screen for us to recap, and then we'll talk about the names that didn't make the list. Top 2 for all 3 of us was Oliveira and Ouellette. Trey, you had Ouellette over Oliveira, but Adam and I had Brady on top. I had Kevin Brown at 3, Devontae Williams at 4, James Butler at 5. You had Devontae Williams, James Butler, Jeshua Nantley, James Butler, Kevin Brown, Devontae Williams for Adam. So Adam and I both had the same top 5, just slightly different ordering in the bottom 3 there. You were the only one that put Antwi in the list. I think I gave my take on him before already. You did not have Kevin Brown on your list, which both of us did. Any thoughts from you on Kevin Brown in Edmonton?
I guess I was just sour after that trade, man, because I don't feel like I was a little shocked to see him that high up in the stats. He didn't give me those stats in fantasy time. I don't know where those numbers came. It must have been the stats correction at the end of the year for all those weeks they missed or something, because I don't know. I didn't get those in fantasy, or maybe I got to talk to the person who controls the Excel sheet. I don't know.
Actually, if you want clarity, I think you did get those point totals in fantasy. You were just so far behind it didn't matter.
That's fair. So maybe I didn't notice it. And again, I'm not sold on Edmonton. I wonder Bethel Thompson's another year older. I'm not sold on that whole team as a whole. I'm not sold on Chris Jones. And I don't know. I think it's hard because I see Bethel Thompson. He pretty much won the Grey Cup for Toronto. And then did he not lead the league in the XFL in passing yards or USFL, whichever league he went to?
I think he did, yeah.
Yeah, something like that. So he's clearly got top talent, but I just wonder, again, we got to say about Ouellette having to learn a new playbook. So does Bethel Thompson. I don't know. Chris Jones is the defensive head coach more, so maybe that's why he gets the veteran guy, because he doesn't want to mentor a young quarterback per se. But I'm not sold on Edmonton, and so it kind of makes me hard to be sold on their running back. I'm sure he'll end up being top 5 in some stats. He'll be the guy that I'm regretting not adding right now. But I think, I'm content. Running back's tough. Any of these guys could twist an ankle in the shower today, and it doesn't matter.
Yeah, it's true. Mike's favorite saying: running backs are a dime a dozen. So.
Yeah, that too. Like, how many of these American running backs that have never even heard of what Winnipeg and Saskatchewan might end up being the league leader, right? So.
Yeah, for sure. Let's go through the names that none of us had on our lists here. We'll start out on the West Coast with the BC Lions. Taquan Mazel, William Stanback are their two running backs there. Their top two at least. I didn't have either of them on the list because BC's not a running team. They showed it last year. They threw the ball out. Mazel didn't have a bad year. He had 773 yards, but I feel like they were mostly a passing team, and kind of showed that in the playoffs too, when the passing game got shut down and they couldn't run the ball. And they brought Stanback in. I've been a big Stanback fan earlier in his career, but I just feel like he's lost maybe a little bit of a step here and there at times. They're going to rotate in 1A, 1B between these guys most likely. I don't think either of them was going to single-handedly have a top 5 performance. Were you kind of in the same boat?
Oh, yeah, I couldn't decide which one was going to be the main guy. We're kind of, 4 of my top 5, I'm going to say, are guaranteed starters unless of injury, right? You know what I mean? I don't think Ouellette or Oliveira are sharing time. Williams and Butler, not likely. And maybe Deshaun Antwi will. But, that's kind of where I was. Where I looked at those two guys, they're similar age, similar kind of stats. It's going to be one guy's a first down guy, one guy's going to be a second down guy. It's going to be situational, and you might not know. It's going to be almost like NFL. When there's 4 running backs and any guy could get fantasy points.
I'm actually surprised to see Stanback at 800 yards last year, given he missed a couple of games. He rotated. He had some other running backs in there. I'll give him credit. Maybe it hasn't quite lost as much of a step as I thought, but I still think it'll be a 1A, 1B type situation there. Calgary, Dedrick Mills is going to be the starting running back this year with Peyton Logan, the backup there. Was there any consideration to Mills for you?
I think our friend BBC Ryan should do BB Cat Ryan or whatever. It should do the opposite in his fantasy and pick anything but Stampeders. Because I think that they, for maybe once in the last decade or two, might be last in the league. So I just kind of stuck away from them.
Mills was actually the honorable mention for me. I mentioned before the show that I had a strong top 6 I was trying to figure out, and Mills was that number 6 that I could have put in here because he has the room to himself now. For 802 yards last year, there were games late in the season where Carey came back, and it was like he'd split room. Carey would get the starts here and there. We were all talking about before last year. I mean, Dedrick Mills made 2 of our 4 top 5 lists, right? Somebody had him up at like number 2 or number 3 on their list. Because he has shown explosiveness at times with Calgary. Now he's the go-to number 1 guy there. I think their offense is going to be better than last year with guys just getting healthy. They were riddled with injuries last season. So I think Calgary's offense is going to be better, and I think Mills will be better as a result. But I do have more question marks about them still than other teams, which is why he didn't quite make the top 5 list here for me. What other running backs do we have here to talk about? I don't think anybody had anyone from Toronto on their list. Adam did mention Daniel Adebaboye as an honorable mention for him, the Canadian kid. I think he'll get into the rotation with Kadeem Carey a little bit more because maybe Carey, injury is taking a toll on him and he's on a bit of a downward slide from that. I'm excited about the future of Adebaboye myself, but I think there's going to be too much of a rotation there for Toronto for him to make my top 5 list. Any thoughts on Toronto's running back situation for you?
No, I kind of agree. I think it's just going to be kind of a rotation, and you don't know who it's going to be, and you might find the Ouellette replacement, but you also might have to go through 4 or 5 guys this year to do it.
And I think that's pretty much all the running backs or the main starters that we have to talk about here. So those are our lists. We've seen some people in the YouTube chat send in theirs as well. Let us know either in the comments or on social media or in the Discord what your top 5 list is as well. And let us know what we got wrong or what we got right. There's not a lot of variation. I think we're all kind of on the same page for the most part here.
So
Just
far,
like
yeah.
quarterbacks.
I think things are a lot clearer this year because last year I felt like we were all over the place, especially quarterback and a couple tough positions. But I think we've had another year, to kind of think it over. Yeah,
It's wild that it's more clear this year, though, when this was the big focus point of free agency in the legal tampering window was that like 4 or 5 top running backs were potentially changing places, right? So
yeah, but I think running backs, you still know what you're going to get to some degree. Like I get the scheme thing, but Olet's just got to run forward. I mean, that's the same in Toronto or Saskatchewan, right? It's not. I'm not trying to downplay his job. Like, yeah, he's got blocking assignments. Yeah, he's got routes. He's got stuff to do. But at the end of the day, his job is just to take the ball and get to the end zone. And I think he's going to enjoy running into the Pilsner zone there. So,
yeah, for sure. Excited to see how these running backs play this year. And yeah, another a very tame top 5 debate here. I feel like between us next week, we're going to have to step it up a little bit. I think. We were talking about this a little bit before the show, Trey and I think next week we're going to do wide receivers and we're going to increase it to top 10 for a little bit more variation on that one because, I think it's just going to be hard to narrow it down to a top 5 wide receivers. So stay tuned for that. Look forward to that coming asterisk next week because hopefully next week, unless scheduling mishaps, I'm not promising anything during the off season, but hopefully next week. That's all our CFL related topics. You still want to get into some of the other ones we talked about, Trey, the non CFL topics, or do you want to just wrap it up here?
Well, the FM fan, no, because if you watch the show, I'm hard on the Bombers. So they're not going to be half Bombers. I mean, there's a couple good Bombers receivers, but we'll talk about that. I'm good with whatever, man. If you want to, we had a couple extra topics. If we just want to call it quits, I'm good, man.
The first one I want to talk about is Stefon Diggs getting traded to the Houston Texans in the NFL today.
For like a couple draft picks too, only like low ones I thought too. But yeah, I mean, I saw it coming. I don't think Diggs is the answer for Buffalo. I think that salary probably could be used elsewhere. Yeah, the receiving core is pretty light right now to some degree, and I think they'll need a new one guy, but they got us. They still have some decent talent. I like their new tight end they had, and stuff. So I'm not too concerned about Buffalo. I have a couple of guys I know and I trust, and the one is not concerned at all. He's pretty content with this move and stuff, and so. If he's a lifelong Bills fan, and who am I to argue with him, right? So,
yeah, Buffalo was a weird team last year, right? Like early in the season, they just kept disappointing, and then they fired their offensive coordinator, and then after that, all of a sudden they were on a roll to end the season there. But when they were on their roll at the end of the season, Stefon Diggs was not for multiple years in a row. It's once it hits like December, he's a non-factor in that offense. So I agree. Buffalo probably is safe to move on from them. I'd like to see them maybe get a little more to that receiver core because they lost Gabe Davis, was their other big name there. A couple other names that don't come to the top of mind, but
now Houston, though, I think it's a good addition for Houston. Young quarterback who he won a playoff game last year, didn't he? And he almost was not too far from winning 2. And now you get a guy like Stefon Diggs who has experience, is still talented. I think CJ Stroud is definitely. I think Houston's a team that, I mean, that AFC South isn't the greatest division in the world, so I could definitely see them now turning that into their division. Who was it? Was it RG3? Or somebody said Houston's the best team in Texas now. Can't remember who it was. It was RG3 or Stephen A. or someone like that. But
they're fun. They're going to be a fun team to watch because you got Stroud. Now you had Diggs in. They still got Nico Collins, Tank Dell. I think they had Joe Mixon as well at running back.
That's what I thought. Right? Yeah, that's what I was thinking of. I was trying to remember who they. Yeah, Joe Mixon. Yeah.
Yeah. So stacked offense there for the Texans. That's going to be fun to watch this year. And they've turned it around big time last year, right? Like the year before, they were terrible. And then they rallied the playoffs. So we'll see what they do this year. You watch any of the UFL this weekend?
I didn't know what station it was on, so I didn't check and checked over some of the scores. I mean, they were a little low, but I mean, I don't know. First week is always like that. Newish. I'm going to consider it a new league, even though there are two existing leagues coming together. You're still feeling things out. How many of these guys are now in new systems? How many coaching staffs returned? How many players are on different teams? So I'm not, and I don't even know how long their training camp really was. Right? Yes, I heard about the punter to center TD and stuff, but I mean,
Yeah, that was wild.
It is what it is, and as you know, I mean, as long as our American friends are enjoying it, that's all that matters, I guess.
Yeah, punter to center TV. It was like a TD was like a 50-yard bomb on a fake field goal, I think, or a fake punt. I guess fake punt if it was the punter out there. That was fun to see. Also, a 64-yard game-winning field goal in one of the early games. Crazy. That is quite impressive. So you know what? Fun. Yeah, I didn't get a chance to watch any of it either. But I love seeing highlights like this. Big moments. You can't ask, especially if it's the first year of a combined league, opening weekend, you want some of these exciting plays that are going to make waves on social media. So I think that was a huge hit to get those ones there.
Why is there website? I don't get it.
Problems with the website?
Yeah, it's kind of weird. I figured it out here. So yeah, the highest scoring, two teams scored 27. Not bad. That's decent. Decent. The Birmingham Stallions and the San Antonio Brahmas both scored 21. The lowest scoring teams were DC and Houston. So 12. So I mean, those are scores that we see similarly in the CFL and NFL time to time. So it's not. I don't think it's too bad. And like I said, I haven't seen any complaints from anybody that kind of talks about the league.
Yeah, don't take this as official betting advice. Don't bet the farm, bet the ant farm. But I feel like early on, and I found some success with this with the XFL as well, is bet the unders for the most part early on until teams build that chemistry here.
I can see that, yeah.
Yeah. All right.
I heard the average attendance was around 14,000 or something like that too. So I mean, that's not too bad, I guess. When they're coming out, because before both of the leagues were doing like hubs, right? So this is the first time they're in their home stadiums to some degree. So I mean,
it's so much better than the hub situation. Yeah. All right, let's get into wrapping things up here. I think for today. Let me pull up the social media slide here. So again, top 10 wide receivers next time around. Look forward to that. In the meantime, follow us on social media. We're on Twitter or X at CF Countdown Pod. You can find me on there at Cooper Trooper 42. Mike is at Mike Garrell. Adam is at Adam Stewart 1. Trey, what you all got going on these days, and where can people find it?
You can find me at Trey Harness Link. It's horse racing season's kicking off. Got a lot of stuff to talk about. So you want to learn that. UFC 300 next week. I'll probably talk about that. Big one. What else? If you see me tweeting about the Jays, just leave me alone. I'm just trying to make it. Baseball's too long of a season, man. It's tough enough when a football team has a bad year at 18 games, but a baseball team when they have a bad year at 122 or 162, I don't know how you do that, but I mean, anyway.
Yeah, see, I struggle. I even with hockey with 82 games, I know every game technically matters in the standings, but I struggle with especially not having enough time these days to invest in watching when it feels like every game is so inconsequential when it's one of 82, and I couldn't even imagine with 160 something that baseball has.
And baseball, they'll just throw these random games during the week at 1 PM. And you don't realize it until the game's over. You're like, oh, I wanted to watch it tonight. They do it the Jays play the Yankees on Friday at noon. So it's why? But they do. I think it's something with their CBA and travel days since they play so much. I think certain travel days have to be noon games to allow for travel or something. And then I know with baseball again, so many games, their attendance lacks. Who goes to a Tuesday game when they've had a 10-game homestand or 12-game homestand, right? So,
right.
It's all good. I'm sure they'll be fine. And my only concern, I know we're wrapping up here, but my only concern is I hope that they're competitive enough that they don't decide to trade away their core. If I do not want to go through a rebuild. I don't have the heart for that right now, man.
So you want them to take the Jets method and never trade away the core because they're just competitive enough to get it in the first round.
When I say core, there's two guys. It's Vladdy and Bichette. And outside of that, they could get rid of anybody. Except Snyder. The new kid Snyder. What?
I've heard those names before, so that sounds like a core to me.
100% Vladdy. Bichette, you could convince me because he's kind of crap, but at times. But Vladdy, you got to keep Vladdy. But anyone else, I would be content with them, I guess, moving on to some degree. But man, but I'm so happy they didn't get Ohtani because we didn't need a gambling scandal. So,
yeah.
That's all.
Good point. All right. Find us on Facebook as well, facebook.com/CF Countdown Pod. Check out Canadian Football Podcast Network at CF Pod Network on Twitter. Our friends at the Alternative Football Network who joined us here in the chat this evening at the official AFN on Twitter or alternativefootballnetwork.com. Again, we didn't have a big UFL recap, but all the other great shows in the network, I'm sure, are covering. Lots of them are covering different angles of the UFL. If you want specific teams or general, I'm sure you can find the right show for you there. Check out the Discord community as well to chat with us between episodes. Link in the episode description to do that. And help support the show, whatever podcast platform you're joining us on. Like, comment, subscribe, rate, review, share the show with your friends. Do all these fun little things that help us grow the show. We always appreciate that. And thanks to everybody who joined us live and the great comments in the chat as well. On behalf of Trey, I'm Ryan saying thank you for listening. Take care. Have a good one. Bye.